The rain was coming down so hard that Daniel barely saw the black SUV waiting at the curb. His hands were shaking from exhaustion, his cheap jacket was soaked through, and his 6-year-old son was asleep against his shoulder, wrapped in the only dry blanket Daniel had left. He had been standing outside the hospital for nearly 40 minutes, staring at his phone and praying the Uber he had ordered would arrive before his son woke up. Then he saw the familiar-looking black SUV pull over, its headlights cutting through the rain. Without thinking, Daniel opened the rear door, climbed inside, carefully placed his sleeping son beside him, and whispered, "Thank God." But the moment the vehicle started moving, Daniel realized something was terribly wrong. The inside was far too luxurious, the leather seats smelled brand new, and there was no Uber sticker anywhere. He slowly looked toward the driver, then toward the woman sitting in the front passenger seat. She was wearing an elegant white blazer, her expression frozen in disbelief. Daniel's heart stopped. He had just climbed into the private car of one of the richest and most powerful women in the city. Before we continue, if you believe that kindness can change a person's life and that everyone deserves a second chance, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. You never know when one small act of kindness might become someone's reason to keep going. Daniel immediately apologized and reached for the door handle, but the woman stopped him. Her name was Victoria Hart, a millionaire CEO whose company occupied 30 floors of the tallest building downtown. She was known for being brilliant, disciplined, and almost impossible to impress. Her driver had been instructed to take her home after a late meeting, and somehow Daniel had mistaken her SUV for his ride. Victoria looked at the exhausted father, then at the sleeping boy curled against his chest. Something about the scene made her anger disappear. She simply told the driver to keep going because the rain was too dangerous for Daniel to get out in the middle of the road. Daniel was embarrassed beyond words. He explained that his Uber had cancelled twice, that his son had been sick, and that he had spent most of the evening at the hospital. He promised to pay for the mistake somehow. Victoria noticed his worn shoes, the tiny hole in his jacket sleeve, and the way he kept checking his son's forehead as though the child were the only thing in the world that mattered. Daniel was a single father who had learned how quickly life could take everything away. 2 years earlier, his wife had died unexpectedly, leaving him alone with their little boy, Noah. Since then, Daniel had worked whatever jobs he could find, warehouse shifts during the day, restaurant deliveries at night, and construction work whenever someone needed an extra pair of hands. He had no savings, no wealthy relatives, and no room for mistakes. His entire world revolved around making sure Noah had food, medicine, and a warm place to sleep. That night, Noah had developed a high fever, and Daniel had rushed him to the hospital after finishing a 12-hour shift. The doctor told him the boy would be fine, but Daniel had been terrified. As Victoria listened, she realized she had spent years surrounded by people who wanted something from her, while this exhausted stranger had absolutely nothing to gain from telling her his story. Then something unexpected happened. Noah woke up and looked at Victoria with sleepy eyes. He noticed the expensive watch on her wrist and innocently asked whether she was a princess. For the first time that evening, Victoria laughed. Daniel apologized again, but Victoria told him he did not need to. She asked Noah what he wanted to be when he grew up, and the little boy proudly said he wanted to build houses because his father had taught him that everyone deserved a safe home. The word struck Victoria harder than she expected. Her own childhood had been completely different. She had grown up with money, private schools, and everything money could buy, yet she remembered coming home to an empty house where her parents were always working. She suddenly understood that Daniel, despite having almost nothing, had given his son something she had never truly possessed, a father who was always there. When the SUV finally stopped outside Daniel's small apartment, Victoria expected him to leave quickly. Instead, Daniel looked at her and thanked her sincerely for helping him. He did not ask for money. He did not ask for a job. He did not even ask for her name. He simply said that someday, if he ever became successful, he hoped he could help someone the way she had helped him. Victoria watched him disappear through the rain with Noah in his arms, and for the first time in years, she felt something inside her shift. The next morning, Daniel arrived at a construction site expecting another ordinary day. Instead, his supervisor told him there was a woman waiting in the office. Daniel walked inside and froze when he saw Victoria. She explained that her company was beginning a major housing project and needed someone who understood ordinary families, not just spreadsheets and profit margins. She had learned from the previous night that Daniel had years of construction experience before life forced him into temporary jobs. She offered him a permanent position with better pay, health insurance, and enough flexibility to take care of Noah. Daniel stared at the offer, convinced there had to be a catch. Victoria simply told him that she was not giving him charity. She was giving him an opportunity because she believed he had earned it. Months passed, and Daniel slowly rebuilt his life. Noah became healthier, Daniel moved them into a brighter apartment, and every evening he came home early enough to help his son with homework. But something else was changing too. Victoria began visiting the housing projects more often, and she always seemed to find a reason to talk to Daniel. Their conversation started with work and gradually became about life, loss, dreams, and the strange ways people meet when they least expect it. Daniel never treated Victoria like a millionaire. Victoria never treated Daniel like an employee outside the office. Somewhere between their honest conversations and quiet moments, friendship became something deeper. One evening, nearly a year after that rainy night, Daniel stood beneath the same city lights where everything had begun. Victoria joined him, and they watched the rain falling softly over the streets. Daniel smiled and admitted that getting into the wrong car had been the biggest mistake of his life, and somehow the best thing that ever happened to him. Victoria smiled back and told him that she had spent years believing she had everything, until one exhausted father and his sleeping son showed her what she had been missing. Daniel reached for her hand, and this time neither of them was afraid of what came next. Their love did not begin with wealth, luxury, or a perfect first meeting. It began with a mistake, a rainy night, and two people who were lonely in completely different ways. Daniel had lost almost everything except his capacity to love. Victoria had gained almost everything except someone who loved her without wanting anything in return. And somehow, inside the wrong car on the right night, two broken lives found exactly what they needed. If this story touched your heart, please support the video with a like, share it with someone who believes in second chances, and subscribe so more stories like this can reach people who need a little hope. And before you leave, comment, kindness can change everything, if you believe that one unexpected moment can completely change the direction of someone's life. Because sometimes the greatest blessings do not arrive when we are ready for them. Sometimes they arrive disguised as mistakes, waiting for us to open the door.